Good evening. Good evening, councillors of Exeter, and welcome to this evening's council meeting. Before we start the meeting, I'd like to hand over to Jackie to lead us in a period of reflection. Jackie is a humanist. Thank you, Jackie.
Hello and good evening. My name is Jackie, as you've just heard, and I'm a member of the Chaplaincy team at the RDNE. I'd like to begin by thanking the Lord Mayor and his colleagues for inviting us to begin your meetings. One thing I feel I've learned from being a healthcare chaplain at the RDNE is the value of acceptance. When someone finds they need palliative care or have suffered a life-changing illness or injury or are grieving, being able to come to terms with this situation, to accept it, to stop fighting, is so helpful in reducing anxiety and moving forwards. Acceptance is a form of resilience, and obviously is not at all easy to achieve. I imagine, however, that acceptance isn't what you came into politics for. I expect you're all here to make change, to fight for a better life for people, to improve Exeter. And that can, of course, be exhausting, especially when the challenge is more than difficult or nigh on impossible. So I'd like to read a very short prayer, the Serenity Prayer, written originally by a Protestant theologian in the 1930s, and which you may have already heard, as it is quite well known. But, as the Lord Mayor said, I'm not religious, as you may remember from the last time I visited. I'm a humanist, and I'm one of a growing number of non-religious chaplains in the healthcare and in prisons. So I'm going to read a slightly altered version of the prayer. In my view, religious ideas, not always, but often, express deep human wisdom. The Serenity Prayer examines resilience and recognises the challenge of choosing between different forms of resilience. When is it appropriate to find the strength to fight for change? And when instead is it appropriate to accept that change just isn't possible? This is important for all of us, but especially important, I imagine, for those in politics like yourselves. You need to fight for change, but you also need to know when it's better to pull back, especially for your own sanity. And these are difficult times, and making that choice isn't an easy one. But knowing there's a value in making that choice is, I think, important and vital. So I'm going to finish with a variation on the Serenity Prayer, and then I'll be quiet for a little while for contemplation. Grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, and the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Have a safe journey home. Before we formally commence this evening's business, can I please remind all members of the following. Please remain focused on the topic being discussed. Please do not repeat points which have already been made. Please show respect to other councillors and avoid interrupting other councillors. And respect the position of the Lord Mayor. Please indicate by a clear show of hands if you wish to speak, and I will then call you as appropriate. Please also remember that this meeting is being recorded on YouTube, so members of the public can see and hear what is being said and decided. The first item on the agenda relates to the minutes of the meeting held of the ordinary meeting on the 17th of December 2024 and the extraordinary meeting held on the 9th of January 2025. I move the minutes of the council meeting held on the 17th of December 2024 to be approved as a correct record by those who were present. Everyone happy? Good. I will sign those. I move to the minutes of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 9th of January 2025 to be approved as correct record by those who were in attendance. Is everyone happy with those? The next item on the agenda is item number 2, and I need to advise you of a few official communications since we last met. Apart from the extraordinary meeting where I didn't have the opportunity. So on the 21st of December, I was pleased to attend the Filipino Community Association Christmas party. That was a wonderful evening full of joy and laughter, I can tell everyone. And on Christmas Eve, I have the great honour of once again attending the Grandson service at Exeter Cathedral. Anyone who has ever been to the Grandson services will know what a special occasion those most definitely are, and they certainly get you into the Christmas spirit. I was honoured to be involved with the King's Award for Enterprise presentation on the 15th of January for Lunas, an amazing organiser of a company within Exeter that is world-renowned and thoroughly deserved their award. On the 16th of January, I hosted the butler service at 34 Restaurant in aid of my chosen charity force, and I would like to thank members of the council that attended that evening. On the 23rd of January, I was pleased to be in attendance for former councillor Richard Branston's Odermanship ceremony. A lovely day and a thoroughly well-deserved presentation to Richard, who I'm sure will see at many civic events in the future. I was also honoured to be in attendance for the Holocaust Memorial Day commemorations on the 27th of January, which were so vitally important due to the anniversary this year. And on the 6th of February, I was honoured to meet Her Majesty the Queen, Camilla, on her visit to Cola. A great occasion, not only for Cola, but also for the city to have the Queen here with us. And on the 9th of February, I attended the Year of the Snake Hong Konger celebrations. Chief Executive was also with me, and we had a thoroughly enjoyable time, I can tell you all. On slightly more sad news, I have to report that sadly Alderman John Landers recently passed away. And we will let you know more about the funeral details when we have them, but I know many of you knew John, and he was a very, very kind and special man. And as people may have noticed, Councillor Tony Wardle isn't here this evening, because sadly his mum recently passed away, and I'm sure everyone will join with us thinking of him in our thoughts and for his family. That's the end of my official communications, and that now brings us on to the next item on the agenda, which is number 3, which offers the opportunity for members of the public to submit in advance public questions. I can confirm that we have received one public question, and I would therefore like to call upon Natasha Paley to come forward and ask a question.
Hello, thank you. My question to the council is, please could Exeter City Council follow the lead of 36 towns and cities worldwide, including Edinburgh, Belfast, Norwich, Exmouth, Haywardsea, and Lambeth, by endorsing the Plant-Based Treaty and developing a plant-based food strategy to help normalise and expand access to plant-based foods? Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha. I believe Councillor Vizard is going to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. May I thank Ms Paley for her question. Many members will remember that this council passed a motion in December 2022 about plant-based food, which recognised the importance of public health and the environment and of addressing the climate emergency of plant-based food. This motion proposed that the council provided food at internal council meetings which would be plant-based and provide plant-based options at our public sites. This is due for further review in due course this year. In terms of a wider strategy, I thank the questioner for bringing this to our attention, and it's certainly an initiative that is interesting and important, and something we will look into and discuss with our partners across Exeter. Perhaps we can roll that into our review of plant-based food policy that we currently have. So I thank her. Absolutely, yes, we'll take this on board and take it away and come back with some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Follow up, I'm here today with the Plant-Based Treaty team. Would you be willing to meet with the Plant-Based Treaty team here in Exeter to discuss this further?
Thank you, Natasha. Clearly, you did have a supplementary. So, Councillor Vizard, please.
Yes, absolutely happy to do that.
Thank you, Natasha. The next items of business on the agenda are the minutes of the various committees of council that have been held since over the last couple of months since we last met in December. May I please remind all members that the relevant chair or representative will present the minutes of their meeting en bloc and will then ask if members have any questions to raise on matters which have been resolved. Can I also ask members not to repeat the same questions which have already been answered at those committees, or waiting for an answer from outside that committee? In respect of any recommendations, there will be the opportunity for debate on those matters. If not, I will move on to the next chair or representative to do the same. When it comes to the minutes of the executive, the leader will present the minutes one by one, so that members and the public are aware of each item. There will be no debate on resolved matters, but members may ask questions on those items. Again, please can I ask that members not repeat questions which have already been answered or awaiting a response. Members will be able to debate any recommendations from the Executive Council, which will be followed by a vote. Thank you, everyone. I therefore now call upon Councillor Knott, as Chair of the Planning Committee, to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of December 2024 at agenda item 4, starting on page 29. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I beg leave to present the minutes of the Planning Committee of the 16th of December 2024, and I'm happy to take any questions, should there be any from members.
I see no hands.
In that case, Lord Mayor, I beg leave to move the minutes.
Thank you. I therefore call upon yourself again to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 13th of January 2025, agenda item 5, starting on page 35. To Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to present the minutes of that planning committee meeting on the 13th of January 2025. Again, I'm happy to take any questions arising from the minutes.
I have Councillor Reid first.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to ask, because I read that the Harlequins development, that the developer is due to pay £2 million up front. So I wonder if we know what that money will be invested in, please, Lord Mayor, and if we have surety that it will be invested in affordable social housing for the city centre. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. As chair of planning, the planning committee has no jurisdiction or control over those matters. That is a matter for the executive, who will be considering that as and when monies are available.
Councillor Palmer, you also had a question.
Thank you. Could I therefore just follow Councillor Reid's question and just ask what specific effort the council is making to provide affordable and social housing specifically within the city centre?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Palmer. Again, I indicate that these minutes relate to the planning committee, and the matters there are part and parcel of planning. We have no jurisdictional control on predicting future things there. As and when plans come up, you and others will be welcome to make contributions at that relevant planning committee. So thank you for your question.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. And can I remind members that where possible, questions need to relate to the minutes rather than more broader points. I will now hand over to the Deputy Lord Mayor. Move on.
There being no further questions, Lord Mayor, I beg leave to move those minutes.
Thank you. We'll now move on then to the next meeting, which was on the 27th of January 2025, agenda item 6, starting on page 47. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I now beg leave to present the minutes of that planning committee. That was the 27th of January 2025. Again, I'm happy to take questions related to those minutes.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Given that the application for Water Lane South was approved by the planning committee with no affordable housing to be provided by the developer, what consideration did the planning committee give to how the affordable housing that was mentioned in the report would be provided?
Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. The planning committee listened to the representations which they received and came to a unanimous decision at the end of it. The joys of planning is that it is free from political considerations, and everybody sat and listened to what was going on. I think if you read through the minutes and look at the presentations, you will see that the mention of affordable housing, the developer said that they were going to bring forward proposals at a later date, but they needed those that position in there. I don't really think that I should be explaining the minutes at this committee, but it was a unanimous decision by the planning committee on that occasion.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Move these.
There being no further questions, I wish to move the minutes, please, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Now move on to agenda item 7, and I call upon Councillor Anne Johnson as Deputy Chair of the Audit and Governance Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of November 2024, starting on agenda item 7, page 57. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. May I present the minutes of the Audit and Governance Committee held on Wednesday, 27th of November 2024. I'm happy to take any questions.
I see no hands.
There are no questions. May I move the minutes?
You may. Thank you. Now move on to agenda item 8, and I call upon Councillor Parkhouse as Chair of the Customer Focused Scrutiny Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 28th of November 2024, starting on page 63. Councillor Parkhouse.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I present the minutes of the Customer Focused Scrutiny Committee held on the 28th of November 2024. Are there any questions?
I see no hands. Oh, we do. Councillor Reid.
Thank you. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, it's about the item of questions from members of the council at the end of the meeting. A question from myself, which the leader answered, where you said you were looking at the issue of bundling in terms of direction of travel moving away from fossil fuels, Lord Mayor. So my question is that I hope and assume that the direction of travel is the right direction, as in moving away from placing money with vehicles, no pun intended, that invest in fossil fuels. So, Lord Mayor, my question is that correct understanding? Thank you. I'm sure who wants to answer it. Thank you.
Councillor Parkhouse.
Thank you, Councillor. I defer to the leader of the council for that question.
Councillor Bionic, leader.
I knew you'd find me eventually. Lord Mayor, there's a number of decisions that this council has to take over the coming months and years. And obviously, the direction is that we want to divest out of fossil fuels and that sort of stuff on purchases to make sure, but of course we have to be mindful to the advice I get from the officers. If I need to follow that advice, and when we purchase stuff, we do it in accordance with the procurement, and that's what we've got to do at this stage. I'd like to be more definite, but I don't think I can at this stage. Although I've been asked to give like an open-ended sort of, and I can't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, leader. Councillor Parkhouse, would you like to move?
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, I move those minutes.
Thank you. Now move on to agenda item 9, and I once again call upon Councillor Parkhouse as Chair of the Customer Focused Scrutiny Committee to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of January 2025, starting on page 75. Councillor Parkhouse.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I present the minutes of the Customer Focused Scrutiny Committee held on the 30th of January 2025.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. At the meeting, there was an error in the minute I've been not thinking about that. I would like to talk about the community lottery. I raised the fact that the expenditure, as shown in the report, ended up in the public 52p in the pound going to good causes rather than 60p quoted on the website, which is on the website today, and it's still saying that. So I would like to ask the portfolio holder if this issue is going to be investigated as a matter of urgency, because the report sent out the information which is clearly not reflected accurately on the website, and I think we need to take urgent action as we operate with the lottery.
Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. I defer to Councillor Lizard, portfolio holder.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Moore, for your question. Yes, it will be treated as urgent, and immediately after the meeting, or the next morning, I asked officers to review and provide a response. That review is still underway. It is taking place at speed. They've already begun. I contacted them. Discussions between officers of the community team and legal are taking place, and the report back to scrutiny will be forthcoming.
Thank you, Councillor Lizard. Councillor Parkhouse. Oh, yes. Please, Lynn, would you like to ask a question?
Sorry.
Is that right? Under item 47, it says that Councillor Williams said that the council remains committed. So should I be standing up? To the procurement of electric vehicles, taking into account budget and availability. But our understanding in a budget meeting, the finance director, was there were no plans to do lease of any electric vehicles. Can you just clarify if that's correct, if the decision has been taken or not? about that, whether electric vehicles will be part of the new contract for the fleet.
Councillor Parkhouse.
Thank you, Councillor. As Councillor Williams isn't here, I'll defer to Councillor Young.
Leader.
Lord Mayor, we will get an answer to Councillor Webster on that. It isn't one point, but of course, it needs to be detailed, and we will do that. Because Councillor Williams is not here to give you that answer, we'll make sure we get the answer to the whole council as well.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Parkhouse.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, move this.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to agenda item 10, which brings me to the Strategic Scrutiny Committee, and I'd like to call upon Councillor Pole to introduce the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of December 2024, starting on page 79. Councillor Pole.
Lord Mayor, I beg to present the minutes of the meeting of the Strategic Scrutiny meeting held on the 5th of December 2024. Are there any questions?
Councillor Harding, I think you indicated.
Thank you. I see under minute number 49, there's a point in the second set of bullet points saying that access to active travel for those with a disability will be drawn into the transport working group, which is a really good thing. I'm pleased to see that. Is it possible I could ask the portfolio holder that we have some sort of deadline set by when that could be brought to the Transport Working Committee, so it doesn't become an open-ended thing? Well, maybe that's happened already, but could we, I'm not expecting you to have a date today, if we could make sure that that gets put into a deadline if possible. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, I defer to Councillor Bizard.
Councillor Bizard.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Pole. Yes, thank you for your question, Councillor Harding. I will have to go away and check exactly what our schedule for Transport Working Group is. I know it is in there as one of the things, items upcoming, so I can give a bit more of a steer on timescale for that. Absolutely agree, it's a very important topic.
Thank you, Councillor Bizard. Councillor Cole, would you like to move? I don't think there's any more hands. Or we do, Councillor Moore, please.
Thank you. I've had an answer to my question on there about what net zero ready means. And it apparently means we have to wait for liquidity to decarbonise. And so I want to ask the portfolio holder, given that that's going to take to at least 2035 or 2045, if that is sufficient. That is our position, that we are just going to wait for the grid to decarbonise before taking substantial action to act on climate change in Exeter.
Lord Mayor, I defer to Councillor Bizard.
Councillor Bizard.
Busy tonight. Thank you for your question, Councillor Moore. As you know, we are working on taking many actions in this respect. So I take your point on board. We know how challenging this is. But with things like the district heat network, which we heard about last week, with the actions of the university, which is the top table in the world in terms of climate science and climate change, there is an awful lot going on, a lot more still to do. I won't list all the things we're doing, but that is the direction of travel. We want to secure our net zero budget for the years ahead and take further steps. Serious steps to do all we can to decarbonise the city citywide. We've taken on new staff to increase our outward-looking approach and much more besides. I won't list it all here. There are lots of things going on. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Councillor Bizard. Councillor Cole.
Lord Mayor, there being no further questions, I move the minutes.
Thank you very much. I would now like to call upon Councillor Pole once again to introduce the minutes of the Strategic Scrutiny Committee held on the 23rd of January 2025, starting on page 87. Councillor Pole.
Lord Mayor, I beg to present the minutes of the meeting of the Strategic Scrutiny meeting held on the 23rd of January 2025. Are there any questions?
Yes, Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much. That's put on minute 58, please, around grade 2. And the portfolio holder just mentioned the energy plant, which is a very impressive scheme. However, they will be relying on fossil fuels to make it work. So I just wondered how that will be contributing to net zero emissions in Exeter.
Councillor Poll.
Lord Mayor, I defer to the portfolio holder, please.
Councillor Bizant.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Moore. You'll have seen the presentation last week. Yes, there is a reliance to some degree on some fossil fuels in terms of gas-fired backup, but I think we'll also have heard very clearly from our people who presented to us to councillors last week from the District Network Organisation, One Energy, that the potential for the scheme is massive. It is one of the ways in which the city can take seriously and move forward with its net zero ambitions. I'm not sure without it that we can. So, of course, I think I also understand that their aim is to get to a fully net zero position, but as it stands, it's a low carbon project which improves massively and provides much more opportunity for organisations which would otherwise have to invest huge sums of money in their own individual schemes to connect up to a wider network. Lots of obstacles still ahead with this. It's not an easy project, but it is an exciting one. And I hope for those who weren't able to be present last week, that there will be a further opportunity to hear from One Energy about the schemes. It's really, really important and a game-changer potential for the city.
Thank you, Councillor Bizant. Councillor Poll.
There being no further questions, I move the minutes. Thank you to the portfolio holder.
Thank you, Councillor Poll. Now move on to agenda item 12, which relates to the minutes of the Harbour Board meeting held on the 12th of December 2024. Starting on page 95, I'd like to call upon Councillor Royston as the member of that committee.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to present the minutes of Exeter Harbour Board on the 12th of December 2024. If I have any questions.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you. I've got two questions, if that's all right. They're about completely different subjects, and obviously I'm aware that you may not know the minutiae of Councillor Williams' brief, so perhaps we might need to have responses later, which is obviously fine. My first question is about minute 103, which is about an update from the Port Users Group, and it's about Dawlish Warren, because we heard an update that Dawlish Warren is, quotes, genuinely in danger. And I've heard this in the last year or so from the Environment Agency, that they think that the loss of Dawlish Warren is quite likely, in their words, sooner rather than later. So we were discussing this at the meeting, and my question is if there's anything more we need to do to prepare for the worst case scenario of losing Dawlish Warren, Lord Mayor. So my question is, the Harbour Master, has he had these meetings which were scheduled with Bournemouth, Christchurch, Port Council and Teambridge in order to understand more from their positions about discussing strengthening sea defences? And if he has, do we have an update? Is there more that we need to do in terms of asking for expert advice about the threat from the Warren? Thank you.
Councillor Royston.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I will pass that question on to Councillor Williams, but I'm sure that it's been discussed a lot, hasn't it, at Harbour Board, Dawlish Warren, that the Harbour Master will probably come with an update to the next meeting, but I will get her to respond to you by email.
You have a second question, Councillor Reid?
Yes, thanks very much. So this is about point 106, which is about the ferry service across to Exmouth and the Starbucks Exmouth ferry service that burst into flames and had to be put out by our brilliant waterways team. And the action of the fire service on the day was that they proposed to let the ferry burn out. They proposed to let it all burn out in the water, all the metal, all the wood, all the fuel go into our lovely River Ex. Luckily, we had our Harbour Master to hand who said, "Can you not do this, please?" So we were asking the Harbour Master to communicate that we wanted a new policy on sort of best practice with respect to the water. And my question is, has anything happened in this regard, Lord Mayor? And if so, what is the upshot? Thank you.
Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Reid. As you can see in the minutes, it was taken away as an action by the Harbour Master, and everybody unanimously agreed that that was an idea to move forward. So I would anticipate again an update at the next meeting, but I will forward it to Councillor Williams or respond to you in email.
Thank you. Councillor Bannister, you indicated.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Another question about Dawlish Warren. So according to the minutes, Mr. Rex Frost from the Exeter Port Users Group mentioned that the Environment Agency does have a plan for Dawlish Warren, but he said they're unwilling to discuss it. And so given the ongoing erosion and concerns raised by Councillor Reid and the Harbour Master, could the portfolio holder obtain this detailed information from the Environment Agency about that plan for Dawlish Warren? And could this plan be made public to ensure transparency so that accurate assessments can be made by the port authorities?
I believe, are you happy for Councillor Violet to answer that? It's indicated. Councillor Violet, please.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor. Interesting point, but it's not for the portfolio owner to make contact with them. It will be the officer who does that. And then obviously the chair of the portfolio owner and share with the board members at the appropriate time. That's, I think, the best way around these things, Lord Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Royston.
If there are no further questions, then I move the minutes.
Thank you. That then brings us on to agenda item 13. So I'd like to call upon Councillor Snow as chair of the licensing committee to introduce the minutes of that committee held on the 28th of January 2025, starting on page 99. And I believe there is one recommendation for council within these minutes. Councillor Snow.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wish to present the minutes of the licensing committee held on the 28th of January 2025. There is one recommendation for minute number 7 for the licensing fees and charges for 25-26, which I'm.
Thank you. Yes, please. Is there a seconder for the? Thank you very much. We have a seconder. And so Councillor Mitchell first, and Councillor Palmer. Councillor Mitchell.
One relates to item 7. The second section, first bullet point. The reader says legislation sets upper and lower limits for gambling fees and charges. The council reached the upper limit some years ago.
Sorry, Councillor, can you pop your microphone on? It doesn't appear to be.
Sorry again. If I want to refer to the bullet point on page 99, which I'll read again for council. So, legislation sets upper and lower limits for gambling fees and the charges. And the council reached the upper limit some years ago. And I'm wondering whether his committee have considered making representations to this council, to make representations to central government, to see if these charge limits can be reviewed, and there's more authority for the local authorities to charge what they think is suitable for their own areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting point. The fees set out for the Licensing Act 2003 and the Gambling Act 2005 are set nationally by HM government, so cannot be altered unless the Secretary of State lays a statutory instrument before Parliament that is subsequently passed. As to your suggestion that this council should write, I will defer that to the leader.
I'll take it away and talk to the directors if it is appropriate to do so.
Thank you, Leader. And Councillor Palmer, you don't want to? Perfect, thank you. Any more speakers or questions? No, so we'll move to the vote then on the recommendation for minute number 7. All those in favour, please show.
Unanimous, that has been carried.
Unanimous. Thank you. Would you like to then formally move the rest of the minutes?
Yeah, if there are no further matters, I think move.
Thank you very much. Now move on to agenda item 14. and I therefore call upon the leader as chair of Strata Joint Executive Committee to introduce the minutes of that committee held on the 28th of January 2025, starting on page 101. Once again, I believe there is one recommendation for approval. Leader.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move the minutes, and in doing so, the recommendation is item minute 5, the Strata Business Plan, which was a resolved matter by the Joint Executive, but needs to be adopted, approved by the Council, and I so move.
Have a seconder? Right. Councillor Mitchell.
Just a point to Councillor Lockhart, we raised this, or I raised this particular issue at the Strata scrutiny meeting yesterday. In the light of the government's determination to plough ahead with government reorganisation, whether we like it or not in effect, Strata is an important element of 3 councils joint working in regard to IT, and this forward plan is a very good business plan carrying forward. What I'm concerned about is the commitment we might be making in the longer term to something that might not exist. I'm just wondering if the leader would agree that whilst the business plan is acceptable at this stage, there should be earlier review stages in line with what is happening within local government.
Peter?
Well, I've seen the minutes of the scrutiny meeting that happened yesterday, Lord Mayor, but I feel sure that those minutes are going forward. The Joint Executive is different how this works. The board get it first before we get it, and the board. But as to the future, I mean, it could be argued we should stop spending on anything now, but we can't. We still got, as I've often said, a day job to do. We've got to carry on. This is the situation. Whatever will happen, the equipment will be of use. That is a separate company, run by the three councils, and I think this is what we've got to do at this stage. Lord Mayor, and let's hope that somehow it may be governed by an appropriate authority at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Leader. Is Councillor Woods?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wonder if the leader would agree that under item 6, it says a £305,000 underspend was forecast. Is that a good example of the sort of savings that we may look at when we, as a council, are looking at a unitary solution? Those are the sort of savings that may be targeting.
Leader.
Well, we look to target savings all the time, Lord Mayor, and just remind everybody who might not have been here in 2019 when this company was set up. It was set up, we had an option. We either took this effectively in-house, all 3 houses, or we contracted it out. And I think we made the right decision now. And the 3 questions, or there's a number of questions I generally ask in chairing this: is it still making us money? Is it doing all right? And is it giving us the service that we demand? Now, of course, life is never always perfect. If it happens to be your iPad not working at that particular time. But in the main, I believe the service is okay. The reports look good to me, and I think this is the direction we have to go. So I'm pleased that the initial decision that we made, this, the 3 councils, is bearing fruit at this stage.
Thank you, Leader. I see no more questions, so we'll move to the vote on minute number 5. And all those in favour, please show.
It's unanimous, Lord Mayor, that has been carried.
Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 15, which relates to the Executive Committee. So I now call upon Councillor Violet as Chair of the Executive to introduce the minutes of the Executive meetings. The first being held, the meeting held on the 14th of January 2025, starting on page 105. Councillor Violet.
Minute 1. Question on minute 1? Minute 2? No? Well, the hand is going back out. So we got till 10 o'clock. I mean, I'm not expecting home till 10. Minute 3. Minute 4, matters referred by scrutiny committee.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you very much, Leader. Just had a couple of questions of clarification about the scope of these reviews. I'm just interested to know what you think, if this could be included in the commercial property review. Many of our public assets are used for commercial purposes, and I'm particularly thinking of Northern Hay Gardens and how it's used commercially in the winter as a very heavy wet period, and we receive a lot of complaints from the public. So I wonder if the commercial use of our public assets can be included in the scope of this review. The second element, I'm sure the council won't be using box shifting practices for its empty commercial property. So I wonder if, as part of this review, we could proactively consider identifying property for meanwhile use for the benefit of community groups.
Of course, this was a matter referred by scrutiny, and slightly we've improved the process whereby recommendations for executive now come from scrutiny. It wasn't quite happening right, and I think we've got this right now, which is very important. And the commercial property review came, and we considered the recommendation as it says, and I've asked the officers to review it, and was carried unanimously. I've listened to what Councillor Moore has said. Once again, I don't think we should be too prescriptive on the use of these things, because Northern Hay Gardens, okay, once it's gone, so it's going to, I assume you say the complaints maybe about the grass, the condition, and all that sort of stuff. That's what I'm assuming. However, I suppose we could say let's just focus on keeping a pristine piece of grass out there. That's okay. But the uses that is devised by the team that we get activities into Exeter, I think it actually is quite important. So I'm assuming officers make that decision across the way on what is important for Exeter. So we've had a number of events up there in the past, and I think they are an attraction to the city. It's important for the city. So I wouldn't be prescriptive to say, no, we're not going to do that. I feel sure next time we have something comes up, I will mention it to the team, or we think it through, is it this? And I feel sure it has to be. No reason to do it. But I think there's a bigger picture to look at when we look at these assets. As for other things, things, community uses or whatever, we're open to look at any option. I don't want to see buildings empty, and if they can be used in the meanwhile, then I wouldn't be opposed to that. But of course, we get into the area of leases and maintenance and all that sort of stuff. And so, whereas, I walk up and down the high street like many of us, and you think, go there, could we just do that? Is it as simple as that? It's not always as simple, and we just need to have a mind to that. But if there is a proposal going forward, we, of course, would look at it, because we want to help communities where we can, or community interest groups, or whatever we want to do where we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader, would you like to continue for minutes?
Minute 5, Lord Mayor, for procuring the wage operation, and here's the resolve matter. Minute 6, budget strategy, medium-term financial plan 25-26. To amend this is a recommendation that we note the contents of the report and proposals for a balanced review of budget. And I move those, Lord Mayor.
Do you have a seconder?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I don't see any hands. We'll move to the vote on that item. All those in favour, please show.
In favour, Lord Mayor.
All those against?
1 against.
Any abstentions?
2 abstentions, Lord Mayor, so that has been carried.
Thank you. Leader?
Minute 7, Lord Mayor, council tax base and NNDR1 for 25-26. These are resolved, 3 resolved matters there, and anybody wishing to take a question on that? If not, I'll move on to the next item, minute 8, housing rents and service charges 25-26. This is also a resolved matter. Lord Mayor, if there's no questions, I'll move on from that. Minute 9, Lord Mayor, review and update of Exeter City Council companies, alternative delivery models and charities. Here, Lord Mayor, there are a series of recommendations, A to F, which I move, and then there's also the recommendation on the Exeter Business Centre Limited, and of course there is 3 resolved matters to follow, Lord Mayor, which can be questioned. Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'll move those recommendations.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder?
Seconded, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Yes, councillor Moore.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to move an amendment to the recommendation by Exeter Business Centre Limited.
Please continue.
Thank you. So I support the principle of a review of the Exeter Business Centre in principle. And I've asked a few questions already around, is this a genuine review to look at viability and development? And, as a rationale for this review, rather than a review in order to shut it down. And I've been really told that that's what it is. I think there is a need to look at all the options for this, and so I would like to be reassured of that. I proposed an amendment to the recommendation to ensure that is the focus of the review. But as it's written at the moment, it reads as if it's a very, very narrow review. So the text I would propose is an amendment to the initiation of a review of Exeter Business Centre to consider how it may best meet the objectives set for it when originally established and options for its future and the role of council as shareholder.
Thank you, councillor Moore. So just for clarification, that's to replace recommendation 2 as part of that. Is that correct? Thank you. And do you have a seconder? It's councillor Mitchell. I'll now open that amendment up to debate. Would anyone like to speak? Nothing further?
So Exeter Business Centre provides an important space for small and start-up businesses on Marsh Barton. Its financial performance has struggled, but my colleague Amy Smarling was platinum last year with yourself, Councillor Wood, and I can't remember who the other director was. And Amy has background in running business centres. And so I actually have her insights to draw on in terms of actually suggesting that this does have potential. However, it's recognised the difficulties in running the centre and the challenges it faces. I feel as a custodian of the business that we actually should be looking at all the options. It could be something that we float off or something that might need to shut down because it's not financially viable. Obviously, there's issues around the lease of the building, which is coming to an end, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the business itself doesn't warrant investment and development. So I want to amend the recommendation in order to ensure that the review looks at these options and helps and supports the directors that the council has put there to do their job, and then we come back with options that we can make meaningful decisions. Because if, quite frankly, we just want to shut it down, then we should save ourselves 10,000 and just say, well, it's just not supported now. So that's why I'm seeking the support of council to clarify the intention and the role of the review. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Moore. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Rich.
Just because of support Councillor Wall's item, I think this issue arose initially because of the question of the retention of the premises, which is not in the ownership of the council, and costs arising therefrom. And it's concerning that that should not be a pretext for necessarily closing the business down or the business model down. And I think in the wording which we're seeking to allow the council to have a broad aspect to look at, if we close any options down before the council decided they can't afford it, don't wish to sustain it, we make that decision. If we find it is better placed in council property or other property elsewhere, and there's a financial model to support it, we might wish to support it. The concern was in the drafting of the initial motion before us, it seemed not to open opportunities to look at the model. Is there a way forward? What is the best way forward? And then to look at whether we as a council wish to support a model going forward or wish to no longer partake in the process. And hopefully Councillor Moore's wording allows the council to do that full report in the context of the £10,000 review that they're paying. So we get the answers that enable us to make the best decision for Exeter and the business.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Indicated.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I wonder if we could just have a repeat of that wording. Obviously, what we don't want to do, I believe, is box ourselves into a position where the nature of the review excludes the possibility of shutting down the business centre if it is actually unviable. So just wonder if we could have a repeat of that.
Yeah. I don't think there are any further speaking, because the way it works, it will be that Councillor Moore will sum up the debate in effect, then we hand over to the leader as the original mover, the original recommendation to then respond. So Councillor Moore, would you, there's no one else to sum up and answer the questions that were raised?
Well, I'd like to speak on the amendment.
But as the original mover, you speak after Councillor Moore has summed up.
I think it's important that the council knows that my group will not be supporting the amendment and the reasons for it before the vote is taken.
The vote will occur after you've spoken. So, yes, so Councillor Moore sums up on the amendment, then as the original mover, you have the right to respond, and then we move to the vote.
Thank you. So thank you, Councillor Patrick, for your question. My proposed amendment doesn't close down the option of closing it down, because I specifically asked the role of the council as shareholder, because it might be not appropriate for us to carry on with our investment. And as a business advisor myself, I'm used to having to tell people actually you shouldn't carry on. So the wording is the initiation of a review of Exeter Business Centre to consider how it may best meet the objectives set for it when originally established. So that's just slightly tweaking the original, and then options for its future. So more than, which may include shutting it down or other options, and the role of council as shareholder. But obviously, it's a bit of a moot point given that the councils aren't able to vote for it. So, thank you for listening to me.
So, Leader, you may now respond.
Well, thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm glad somebody can about this. What I wanted to say, why I was sort of asking Councillor to speak for, because I wanted to be convinced. That's what I wanted to hear the arguments, to be convinced. My mind, believe it or not, was open, because I think I've not spoken to Councillor Patrick, to know but that was how I read it, is this narrowing the options. Now, I haven't checked my dictionary as to what review means and what that review encompasses, but I do not believe you've been prescriptive to the officers about what that review should be. So there'll be a series of options, I assume, they will bring back the executive and the council when it comes through on what we can and can't do. And there'll be discussion and debate around some of those options. I would expect and assume that there would be engagement with the business centre over this, during this process, this review process. So there would be engagement. Somehow, I don't think, nor do I feel we should get into, Lord Mayor, actually doing the dotting the i's and crossing the t's of everything what the directors or the team doing the review should do. We've got to do the trust and confidence in them, in conducting a review in the best interest of the council, taking into consideration the users of the business centre. So, there's a lot of assumption that we're going to close it down. I've not said that. I want to see what the report says and what the review says. And I think that's fair, that's honest, let's hear what all the partners have got to say in this discussion. It will come back to us. And what I wanted to know, I heard from the secretary about wasting £10,000, but I didn't see that that was deleted. That was still going to be in there, whether or not we accepted it, but it wasn't deleted. So I think we should carry on as the recommendation suggests. And I believe we should have a proper review. It will be discussed, and I can assure councillors that we aren't going to go more than to do anything in any direction down there. It's got to be thought through by the people who know it and understand it, and will work with the parties concerned. That is the assurance I will give members of this council, that we will do that and it will come back. And that's when we can have that open discussion once we see what options and the findings are there. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'll now move to the vote on the amendment that's been put forward. So all those in favour of the amendment, please show.
7 in favour, Lord Mayor.
All those against?
It's 22 against, Lord Mayor.
Any abstentions?
1 abstention, Lord Mayor.
That's clearly lost. Are there any other questions on the recommendation? Yes, Councillor Daniel.
I had a question about Exeter Science Park. Is that the right place?
Yes.
So, reading the chairman's report in July 2024, the Exeter Science Park Limited bought land next to the science park for £1.5 million by giving the seller new shares instead of paying cash. So this means that Exeter Science Park Limited issued new shares to the seller, increasing the total number of shares in the company. And doing this can reduce the ownership percentage of the existing shareholders through the Exeter City Council. And so can the shareholder representative explain how these actions might affect Council's 20% ownership in Exeter Science Park Limited? Specifically, how does issuing new shares change the Council's ownership percentage and the future plans for the science park?
I think that's a good question that the council needs to work out, not just the shareholder of the council. And I think we will get a detailed response to the councillor, which will be shared with us all, because I think that's an important question that needs to be answered. Thank you, councillor, for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. I see no other hands, so I'll move to the vote on the recommendations as set out. So all those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Lord Mayor. That has been carried.
Thank you.
Minute 10, Lord Mayor. Yeah, minute 10, Lord Mayor, I shall move the minutes. The executive on the 4th of February, Lord Mayor, wish to move these minutes. Minute 11.
Before you carry on, Leader, if I may give clarity, so just so that members are aware that minute number 18, minute number 19, minute number 20, and minute number 21 will be considered and voted on as part of the budget setting meeting at the council meeting next week, and therefore shall not be voted on this evening. I just wanted to make that clear before you start to present the minutes, Leader. Please carry on.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Minute 11, 12, 13, 14, amendment to procurement contract procedures, rules, Lord Mayor. This is the recommendations with a number of 3 main recommendations, which are formally moved.
Second, Lord Mayor.
All those in favour of the recommendations, please show.
That's unanimous, Lord Mayor, that has been carried.
Please continue.
Minute 15, Lord Mayor, annual pay policy statement 25-26. The 2 recommendations which I move, Lord Mayor.
Second, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. No hands against, we'll move straight to the vote. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Lord Mayor, that has been carried.
Thank you, Leader.
Minute 16, Lord Mayor, gender pay gap report. And here there are 3 main recommendations which I move, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
Second, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. No hands. We'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Lord Mayor, that has been carried.
Thank you, Leader.
And minute 17, Lord Mayor, update on local development scheme 2025. This is a resolved minute. And are there any questions, Lord Mayor?
Councillor Moore.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. So this is obviously a legal requirement that's produced and updated regularly. One of the discussions that has come up in the local plan is the discussion about a supplementary planning document on co-living, which is a novel form of accommodation which is deemed important for Exeter. It was talked that this would be set out in a supplementary planning document, but it's not included in this proposed local development scheme. When does the portfolio holder think we might see such a document coming forward in our local development scheme?
Leader, the detail of that question, Lord Mayor, I will speak to the director and make sure that the council is advised of that. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Please continue, Leader.
Lord Mayor, how do we note the 18, 19, 20 and 21, or do we just not bother with it until next week?
And so just move on to minute 22.
Keep it quiet, so I don't say that all up next week. Minute 22, local council tax support scheme, Lord Mayor, and there's a recommendation here which I move.
Have a seconder?
Second, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Wright, thank you very much. Councillor Harding, did you wish to speak on this item?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask a question about one of the bullet points there. Can I remember back when last summer we discussed pension credit, how important it was that we reached out and tried to find some of these people that were entitled to it. And I'm really pleased to see here that 200 households have been identified for potential entitlement. Could I just ask, do we know how much more work there is, or what can we do to find other people who haven't been identified yet? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harding. Leader?
I don't know if Councillor Asbashin can help with any of that at all. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The team were going to undertake work in January, so hopefully that should have all been done. When I spoke to them last week, they've done a follow-up and contacted all the people who haven't got back to them, but I think about a 98% contact rate, so there's plenty of work going on there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or no? So we'll move to the vote on that item. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Lord Mayor, that has been carried.
Thank you, Leader.
Minute 23, Lord Mayor, Household Support Fund Scheme number 7, and there's one recommendation which I move, Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Moore?
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I will be voting for supporting this recommendation, but I think I want to raise something that is a real concern to me and to my group, and that is about the widening inequality in Exeter and also levels of poverty. I looked at the ONS today, and it says in Exeter, the latest figures show that 9.5% of the population is income deprived, and 72 neighbourhoods are in the top 20% of the most income deprived in the country. I find it quite a shocking statistic. In the most deprived neighbourhoods, just over a quarter of people are estimated to be income deprived. So I do welcome the fact that there is this additional household support fund, and it has been relatively easy to access. But I am really deeply concerned that it continues to be necessary, and there are structural issues that we need to address and discuss as a council. And I would like to have reassurance from the leader that we can actually focus more in council on how we can support people in a better way than offering priceless payments. And I'm happy to share the data sources with anybody who wants to know about where these figures from. Some quite incredible but shocking maps of the ONS.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Anyone else wish to? Yes, please, Councillor Bizard.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I'm just reflecting again on the excellent work of our officers in terms of administering this really, really important scheme. Clearly, Exeter, like other parts of the country, is still reeling from 14 years of austerity and the impact on cost of living, which this new Labour government has inherited and is doing its best to try and mitigate through schemes like this, through increases in the living wage and so forth. But it's challenging. What I would say is that through some of the council schemes, such as Wellbeing Exeter, well supported by this council and Support England, we are absolutely tackling at the very heart of some of the social issues and health issues in our priority areas through our community grants schemes, city grants and our ward grants. We can do what we can to mitigate. This is clearly not something we can resolve as a council alone, but I think we do a very, very good job, and our officers certainly do a brilliant job in combating some of the challenges the council will mentions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bizard. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I have to agree with Councillor Moore about being shocked at the areas of deprivation that we have in the city, but have had for quite some time. So to echo what Councillor Bizard has said about targeting areas for various schemes where we can, we absolutely do. Where that was brought to my attention was when we had COVID lockdown, first of all, and the grants panel was formed as an emergency grants panel, looking at those areas where there is mass deprivation, to try and get some movement in there to help volunteers to come forward, because it tends to be the case sometimes that volunteer and community groups are more readily formed outside of those areas. So it's something that is long term. It's also something that is national. We know about the levels of child poverty in this country, which have reached appalling levels over the last 14 years. So whatever we can do as a local council, we absolutely should be doing, and we do. But I would like to suggest that we take this away to have, see if we can arrange a briefing for councillors so that we're all aware of where those areas are, and that we can make sure we take that forward in any policy making that we do, which we do already, but to bring better awareness to the whole council, if that would be useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. I don't see any further hands. Councillor Bialik.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Yeah, it's difficult to disagree, because those areas of deprivation existed in Exeter for a long, long time, and I've often waxed lyrical, like the old days when I drove my bus. But those areas of deprivation remain then, and they're still here now. And to varying degrees, and I can't see that changing inside 6 or 7 months. And I'm convinced that the government, the Labour government, are fully aware of this. That's why they brought out the Household Support Fund 7 pretty quick to support people. And when you look at what number 6 done, that was, we gave direct awards of £200 given, that's a good number, £200, given to 923 pensioners, totaling up £185,000. And also, with 1,650 awards being granted to date, and 30,000 still remained in the period up to the end of March, and I feel sure that's been dealt with. So I have every confidence that the officers and the teams are doing everything they can. And there was discussion when we debated this at the Executive, is this reaching everybody, or is everybody aware of it? You know, because there's those people who are aware of it, and some people falling through, and indeed, I referred one resident through it who basically, nice people, just didn't know, and they were dealt with, and I'm pleased to say they've been dealt with. So I'm aware, and I would support what Councillor Wright has said, that we need to perhaps update on where we are, but I'm not sort of believing that this government, sadly, can correct something inside of 7 months, which has been long-standing in many communities, not just in Exeter, across the country. And it's a big job to do, and we need to work with them. I can assure the opposition leaders at the meetings I go to, in my capacity as leader of the Labour group and leader of the Labour Council, when I meet with ministers and opportunities, to get those opportunities now. This is a theme that runs not just in Exeter, throughout all of Labour councils throughout the country. So I'm fairly confident that we get. I'm hoping, Lord Mayor, and I'm hoping work can be done, that in 4 or 5 years' time, those words can be marked against what improvements have taken place. And I sincerely hope those improvements have taken place. We as a local authority are doing our little bit to try to rectify some of this. And again, thank you to the officers, thank you to the team that has been dispersing this money, making sure it gets to the people, doing everything that they can, because there's a lot of stuff out there for people. They need support, they need our help where we can give it, and I'm glad that we are doing it, Lord Mayor. So I would certainly move and support the recommendation, please.
Thank you, Leader. We'll now move to the vote on the recommendations. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, Lord Mayor. That has been carried.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of your minutes, I believe, Leader.
Yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll move on to agenda item 17, which relates to questions from members in accordance with Standing Order 8. I can confirm we have received 2 questions. So I first call upon Councillor Wettenall to ask her question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The Council's consultation charter says at point 17, we will publish results, meaning of consultations, detailing the responses received and explaining how we have taken these into account at arriving at a decision. This does not appear to be happening in any reasonable timescale. What does the Leader believe is a reasonable timescale for the publication of consultation results after a consultation closes? Thank you.
Leader, can you respond, please? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor, and I will explain what I regard as a reasonable timescale. The timing of publishing responses to public consultations will vary according to the nature of each consultation activity, and I am guided by the officers on this. However, I would expect consultation responses to be published on our website around the time any related decision is likely to be taken. For example, the results of both the budget consultation and the new corporate plan priorities consultation, which closed in mid-January 2025, were both published on the Council website on the 4th of February 2025 to align with the budget setting process. Consistency in our approach to publishing consultation feedback reports is a priority for the Strategic Director for People and Communities, now responsible to ensuring the spirit of the consultation charter is met. To ensure there is sufficient resource to enable this, the Director has redesigned resources to create a new post of Consultation and Engagement Manager, reporting to the Head of Service, Customer and Communities. Ben Lansdon started his new role on the 10th of February 2025. The Director assures me a priority for him will be to ensure that consultation feedback reports are uploaded on the Council website in a timely and consistent manner.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Wetmore, do you have a supplementary that relates to that response? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I wonder, with regard to the second bit of the statement in the Charter, we will publish results explaining how we've taken these into account in arriving at a decision. The failure to do this was pointed out in the internal audit that was carried out in March and published in March last year. And I still don't see anywhere, there's almost nowhere I've been able to find where the consultation results have been published, and then there's an explanation as to how those have been taken into account. So can the Leader confirm that this would be part of the remit of the very welcome news about this new officer and of pulling up our boots on the standards of consultation, that there will be clarity, you can click through and see not only the results, but how the Council has taken them into account in reaching a decision. Thank you.
Leader? Yes. Thank you for your second question, Councillor. On that, I'm satisfied that we will carry out what we said in the consultation charter in a timely and appropriate way. And that's what we intend to do. As I said, we've got a new member of staff who's responsibility for that. If you're suggesting that somehow on the website, each of those things will feed that way, I think it goes the other way. That will guide our decisions and help our decisions, not necessarily guide it. We will take it into consideration when we make those decisions. So the consultation responses will be there. That's where they are. They will be reviewed and examined by when we make the decisions at the relevant time, as I said earlier, and we will take it forward in that way. So it's about how the process works on all of this. But must be understood that not everything that what is said can be achieved sometimes. But if it can't be, obviously we need to reason that a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. We'll move on to the second question. That has been submitted by Councillor Banyard. Would you like to read your question, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. According to the minutes of the Antisocial Behaviour Action Group for South Street and Cathedral Green, a representative from St Petrock's stated that Exeter has about 20 to 30 bus sleepers on any given night. Yet the severe weather emergency protocol only provides 8 additional beds. And so when temperatures drop to freezing, how does the council ensure that no one is left without shelter in severe weather?
Thank you. And Councillor Bassett, I believe you're responding.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question, Councillor Banyard. It's an excellent one, and one that I actually asked myself, so I think it's really good. The estimates of actual numbers of the clients who are rough sleeping at Exeter on any given night can indeed vary. And the figures quoted might include clients who use some petrol services for showers, food, etc., and may not actually be rough sleeping, albeit in precarious accommodation situations. The monthly data that we return to MHCLG, the intelligence from our commissioned ambulance services of Julian House, and our annual count figure continues to confirm that numbers are in the low teens. SWEP is limited by the amount of accommodation we and our partners have to offer. Some clients regularly refused an offer to come in, and some clients with accommodation will still choose to sleep rough. If a client wants to come in during the cold weather, we will do all we can to try and find them a bed. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Banyard, that relates to that response, please?
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any plans to increase the number of swept beds from 8 to a bigger number? Given that if there are low teens, and that's still not quite enough beds. Thank you.
Rose Hanson.
Thank you. Again, a very good question. I'm hoping to work with St Petrox and also all our other partners to see what we can do to improve and increase the amount of accommodation and do our utmost to make sure that nobody is ever left without accommodation when needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that now brings us to the end of this evening's meeting of Council. So I formally close the meeting. I believe we do have tea and coffee. I'm looking at John now. So if members would like to hang around and have a chat with me afterwards, that would be greatly appreciated. And I also look forward to seeing you all in a week's time for the budget meeting. So I look forward to seeing you all then too. Thank you very much, everyone.
We're going to leave us and work